Good morning and welcome to week number 3 of the Mountainside Festival of Joy. Mom and I are grateful that you have joined us this morning, and we hope that you find joy and perhaps some new insights in the next 45 minutes or so. Our guest speaker is someone I have known for almost 40 years. Kirk Dunn and his wife Claire were classmates of mine in the theater program at York University, so many years ago. I am so blessed to call them dear friends, and soon you will see why. Kirk is going to share a very special story with us today. From 2003 to 2018, he went on a personal journey to learn about the world, and more specifically, about the 3 Abrahamic faiths: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Oh, and the story also includes knitting, but that's all I'm going to say. Let us worship.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them spring. Sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Ours is the sunlight, ours is the morning, born of the one light, Eden's our play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word.
We begin our time together with the reading of a psalm, number 100, a psalm of joy. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know ye that the Lord, he is God. It is he that hath made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him and bless his name. For the Lord is good, his mercy is everlasting, and his truth endureth to all generations. Our opening hymn is from Voices United, number 226. For the beauty of the earth. The poem Nathaniel is going to read for us is called To This Moment, a poem for the Shehe Cheanu. The blessing associated with this ritual is a common Jewish prayer offered on special occasions to give thanks, for example, for seeing a friend after a long absence or acquiring a new home. It was published in a book of poetry called Dancing in the Palm of God's Hand by Stacy Zisuk Robinson.
Joy lingers. It gets into folds of cloth and time. It scatters, dancing with dust motes that drift according to some ancient and hidden métier that only God know and the dust know. It is as fine as cobwebs and sticky. It shocks and shivers in unannounced wonder on well-trodden paths and those not taken. It settles like a kiss upon your skin, and you carry its dancing, shocking, sticky memory with every step and whisper. Joy lingers in the last note, a song, a psalm, a sigh that stretches into forever, that you would follow forever, that starts with your breath. For how could it not begin there, with breath and soul in the very name of God? Joy echoes and lingers and washes over you, and is in you and carries you from season to season to this moment, this very moment of joy.
Ancient of everlasting days.
Hi, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kirk Dunn. I am a PK, or preacher's kid. I come from a long line of Presbyterian ministers. My great-grandfather was a Presbyterian minister, as was my grandfather, as was my father. And then there's me. I went to theater school and became an actor, and I got work. But the thing about acting is there's lots of waiting around in audition rooms, waiting around backstage, waiting around on set. And so I took up knitting to pass the time. And I had so much time to pass that I got really good at knitting. In fact, I got so good at knitting that I was invited to apprentice with my knitting hero, Kaif Fassett, sometimes called the rock star of the knitting world. In 1998, I apprenticed with Kaif at his studio in London, and I liked his unabashed use of color. And when I started designing, I followed in Kaif's footsteps, and I followed his mantra: when in doubt, add another color. And here's a sweater I knit for my father, the Presbyterian minister. I got the pattern from an altar cloth in his church. Knitting was a good hobby. I was passing the time, knitting sweaters for my family and friends. I was comfortable. And by this point, my wife Claire and I had started a family. We have a beautiful daughter and son. I'm acting, I'm knitting. I've parlayed my acting skills into a part-time corporate training job where it turns out I'm pretty good at conflict resolution. So things are going really well, except the world has gone sideways. September 11th, 2001, anti-Islamic sentiment goes through the roof. Anti-Semitism is alive and well. And the loudest Christian voices I hear seem to be the ones filled with hate. What has happened to us? We're all cousins. Judaism, Christianity, Islam. We've all come from the same place, from Abraham. We're all saying the same thing. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and return evil with kindness. So why can't we get along with each other? Empathize with one another. What are we so afraid of? I'm sitting in church one Sunday thinking about this, and I'm looking at one of the stained glass windows. I love the colors. And I'm listening to the minister, and she's talking about the parable of the talents. A talent was a denomination of money, but the symbol for ability works well here. A master goes away on a trip, and before he goes, he gives 3 servants a number of talents, or money. 2 servants make investments and double the money. The master is very happy. The 3rd servant is too scared to lose the money, so he just buries it and gives back the amount that was given to him. The master is very unhappy with this lazy servant and tosses him out into darkness. What am I doing with my talents? The life of an actor. Hurry up and wait. Say other people's words while the world feels like it's falling apart. As a Christian, I am called to care for others, to speak truth to power, and champion justice and equality, all with love and compassion. What have I been doing to make the world a better place? Not much. Might as well have been in a hole in the ground. I decide I have to do something, but what? I look back at the stained glass window, and I think, I could knit that. I could knit a beautiful liturgical tapestry, but no, there's so much of Christianity out there that is not beautiful right now. And if I want to do the speak truth to power thing, I'll have to knit the truth. I'll have to show the negative side up alongside the positive. And I'll have to talk about how Christianity is getting along with its fellow Abrahamic faiths, Judaism and Islam. In fact, I could look at how all 3 of them are getting along together. And maybe I could be part of the dialogue between the faiths, a conversation about what we have in common, a way to build empathy and reinforce connections. Well, of course, this terrifies me. I mean, who am I to tackle this? I don't have a degree in theology. And what if I offend people? And I'm not just concerned about Jews or Muslims there. A lot of Christians quote the Gospel of John to me, and they say, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So they take that to mean You either believe in Jesus or you go to hell. It's one way or the other. But life is more complicated than that. It's got to be. Heck, knitting is more complicated than that. Take a look at this. This is a knitted scarf, but it's also something else. It's a Mobius strip. A Mobius strip is defined as a surface with only one side and one edge, which of course is impossible. Just looking at this scarf, you can see that it has two sides and two edges. But does it? If you imagine placing your finger on the surface anywhere along the scarf and then following that side along its entire length, you will end up right back where you started without ever lifting your finger from the scarf. It's the same side. And you'll find the same thing if you try following an edge. It's the same edge. So is it one side or two? It's both. This piece of knitting is a paradox. Two things that intuition and experience tell us should not be happening at the same time, yet they are happily coexisting together. And I think it would be fair to say that God is a good deal more complicated than a scarf, no matter your faith. So if there are two ways to approach this twisted piece of knitting, how much more likely is it that there could be multiple ways to approach God? So I decide to knit a triptych, 3 full-sized stained glass window tapestries exploring the commonalities and conflicts between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, knitting together the 3 Abrahamic faiths. I call it Stitched Glass. It will be a textile conversation starter. It is generously supported by the Ontario Arts Council. And I estimate the entire project will take me 10 months. I start with a Christian window because being a Christian, that's where I feel most comfortable. And I research medieval stained glass windows. They were used to illustrate events in the life of Jesus for the people who couldn't read, like this one of Jesus washing the feet of his disciples. And this is the first sketch of the design for the windows on the back of the proverbial napkin, or in my case, an envelope. I incorporate the essential symbol of each faith into the framework of each window. So the cross for Christianity, the Star of David for Judaism, and the star and crescent of Islam. Inside the symbol will be the positive images of the faith, and then outside will be the more negative or challenging images. You can see on the right how the star and crescent of Islam evolved to make room for an image of 9/11. More on that later. I followed the design process that a glazier would use for a stained glass window. So I started with a full-size sketch called a cartoon. These next few slides show a little bit of detail of what that looked like. So this is a detail of the Christian cartoon. It's a section from within the cross, so it has positive images of Christianity. The lion and the lamb, symbolizing the strength and the vulnerability of Christ. The next step was to add color to the images, and this shot gives you an idea of the size of the cartoon. Also note the color of my hair. I was a brunette when I started this project. And this is the finished Christian cartoon. I then took a digital photo of the cartoon and scanned it into a knitting program, which laid a grid over the image so I could have a pattern to work from. But the pattern was huge and very blurry. So I had to take a manageable section, click on each individual cell of the pattern and choose the color I wanted. Then I printed up that section and knit from that. So I was knitting the tapestry one piece at a time and really hoping that when they were all done, they were all going to fit together. And this is a section from the top right of the cartoon. It's a corruption of the burning bush and recalls the time when Christian theology felt it was appropriate to burn someone at the stake if they didn't agree with you. Yes, this happened in the Spanish Inquisition, but there are similar feelings out there right now. I knit anywhere I could, especially at home, where it looked like a yarn monster barfed on our living room floor. My wife was a saint to put up with this. And here's a detail of an image depicting one of Christ's most powerful parables, the parable of the Good Samaritan. The traveler, as we know, is robbed, beaten, and left for dead on the road to Jericho. A priest and a Levite walk past him because touching the man would make them ritually unclean. The one who stops to help is a Samaritan, who the Jews of the day would have considered to be a heretic. But modern Christians have heard this story so often, we usually miss a couple of valuable points. This parable is not just about being good to your neighbor, but also about not holding on to religious rules and doctrines so tightly that your faith gets in the way of you doing the right thing. And it's about something that nobody wants to hear, that grace and love can be found in a person you label as a heretic. One of the biggest paradoxes of Christianity for me is the idea of the Christian soldier. I find it ironic that Christianity, a religion following a man who preached nonviolence, peace, and love, did a great deal of its expanding as a result of war. Here, the Christian soldier, wearing the crusader's tunic, holds modern weapons and stands on a map of the world borrowed from Risk, a board game whose goal is global domination. He is the one who is running Christ through with a spear, all the while looking in another direction, seemingly unaware of what he's doing. And this is the finished Christian window. This tapestry took me 5 years to complete. So much for my 10-month schedule. And it's 9 feet tall by 5 feet wide. So if I frame it, it won't fit in our house. So, ironically, the tapestry gets folded up and put in a dark chest, sort of like a hole in the ground. I decided to tackle the Judaic tapestry next because, seeing as Christianity shares the Old Testament with Judaism, I figure I have a bit of a head start. I soon find out that I know next to nothing, and I am terrified and paralyzed. And a friend introduces me to Avram Rosenzweig, who is the founder of a charity called Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta is Hebrew for "and you shall love." And their mission is Tikkun Olam, or repair the world. And that feels like my project. And Avram connects me with a rabbi, a businessman, and a professor, and they are incredibly helpful. And I begin designing the Judaic window. And again, with this design, I put the positive images inside the essential icon, the Star of David, and the more challenging images outside. Here's a close-up of the Judaic cartoon, the center of the Star of David. And here I've placed the tetragrammaton, or the Hebrew characters for the one God, the Abrahamic concept essential to all three faiths. It's superimposed on a page of the Talmud, or the commentary. And the dove of peace. The Hebrew characters in its wings spell shalom. The positive images of Judaism were easy to decide on. The only trouble I had was paring their number down to fit the available spaces in the design. The negative images were much more challenging because this is not my faith, and I don't want to offend. And causing conflict is the exact opposite of my intent. And at the same time, these are things I see, things I hear, things I read about. And if I make a mistake or I get it wrong, then the only way I learn is through conversation. And the whole point of this project is to start that conversation. So, holding my fear in check, I look at some things that Judaism is struggling with. This is a combat bulldozer. Technically, the bulldozer is a machine designed for construction, but it can also be used for destruction. This section, outside the Star of David, has a bulldozer with teeth on its blade. It references the complicated issue of Jewish settlements on the territory contested by Palestinians. Are the Jewish settlers treating Palestinians in the same way Jews have been badly treated throughout history? Forced evictions, the loss of property. Here's the knitted version of the dove of peace with the shalom in the wings. And here's the bulldozer. It takes me another 5 years to complete the Judaic tapestry. And here I am preparing for a photo shoot. Note the color of my hair. And here it is, the Judaic window. I was invited to make a presentation at a stitchery festival, which was the first time I was invited to talk about a faith that was not my own in public. And I presented the Judaic window, and I covered all the positive imagery, and I moved on to the negative or more challenging images outside the Star of David. And when I got to the image of the bulldozer, a man in the audience became very upset. He told me that the Palestinians were terrorists and criminals, and the settlers, on the other hand, they were trying to build homes and a community and a country. And I tried to explain to him that there are different images or difficult images rather, in the other tapestries too, but he just left. So I started the conversation, but I didn't get a chance to finish it. And I wonder if this is how it's going to go. Am I going to make things worse? I'm 10 years in, I'm out of money, and it seems like I'm just ticking everybody off. But my wife, Claire, won't let me quit. She says, you wanted to be part of the conversation. Keep going. So it's time for the Islamic Window research. If I thought I had a lot to learn about Judaism, I am at sea with Islam. I make arrangements to meet an imam at the Islamic Dawah and Information Center in Toronto. And the imam is very generous and helpful. And he takes a look at my ideas for the design and he feels they're valid. And so over the next few weeks, I draw the cartoon. And here's what that looked like. My research into Islam revealed so much in common between the three faiths, like the 5 pillars of Islam, the 5 essential tenets of the faith. And those 5 pillars started with the oldest of the 3 faiths, Judaism, and they continued through Christianity. And here they are in Islam. I placed the images of each of the pillars inside the 5-pointed star of the Islamic star and crescent. There they are. And let's go through them clockwise from the center top. You can see the Shahada, the Islamic profession of faith. It is rendered in stylized Kufic calligraphy. It is the top point of the star there. It translates as, there is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. We can all totally get behind that first part. Moving clockwise at the 3 o'clock position, you can see the images of zakat, or charity, helping those in need. The Jews have tzedakah. It's often translated as charity, but it actually means social justice through financial giving and action. And charity and poverty relief are a huge part of the Christian church as well. At 6 o'clock, you can see an image of the Kaaba, the site of the Hajj. The Hajj is the pilgrimage to Mecca that each Muslim is expected to perform in their lifetime. Before the Jewish temple in Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 CE, Jews practiced 3 pilgrimage festivals a year. And now those festivals, they still stand today, but a pilgrimage is replaced by special prayers. And Christians have a history of making pilgrimages. And even today, Christians hike the Camino Trail in Spain to the grave of the Apostle James. Still moving clockwise, you can see a praying figure, which references salat, or prayer. And of course, prayer is essential to Judaism and Christianity as well. The prayers aren't structured in the same way, but we all have our rituals. The final point of the star depicts Psalm, or fasting. Muslims fast for 1 month a year during Ramadan. Halakha, or Jewish law, covers fasting, and the Jewish calendar has days that include ritual fasts. And those Christians aren't required to fast, many do. And fasting was originally part of Lent. It's where the idea of giving up something for Lent comes from. And there are some difficult conversations to be had about Islam. In this modern time, Islam's greatest challenge, certainly in the Western world, is the specter of 9/11. The striped rectangles here depict the twin towers of the World Trade Center. In the upper left section, the shape of an aircraft can be seen. In the upper right section, another aircraft can be seen crashing into the building and exploding. Despite the fact that the vast majority of Muslims condemn terrorism again and again, the memory of 9/11 makes it easy for Western society to normalize Islamophobia. As I kept working on the Islamic tapestry, I actually wondered if stitched glass would even be relevant anymore. After all, it's been so long since this event. But then Donald Trump was elected in November of 2016 and took over as president in January of 2017. And we saw a rise in misogyny, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism, white nationalism, anti-poverty, and anti-refugee sentiment. The 45th president had no trouble inciting people to violence, no trouble discrediting journalists and obfuscating the truth. But the problems are not just south of the border. In 2017, there was a mass shooting at the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec City. And just a few months ago in London, Ontario, a Muslim family was killed solely because of their faith. In Toronto, Claire and I attended a vigil at our local mosque, encircling the mosque with people of all faiths and beliefs to show our support. And we wondered, How is it that it feels like things have been getting worse since 9/11? How can that be possible? As I got close to finishing the stitch class, I reached out to art galleries and museums about possible exhibitions, but nobody was interested. I had no formal art training. I wasn't represented by a gallery, and I had no previous exhibitions. According to the art world, my art had no value. And I hit rock bottom. It was looking like I was not going to be part of the interfaith conversation after all. I had wasted my time. It's like I knit these tapestries just to bury them in a hole. You might say I turned out to be the wrong servant in the parable of the talents. Claire went out to lunch with a theater director friend around this time, and they started talking about how badly I was feeling. And our friend said, "Hey, Kirk's an actor. So why not write him a show and use the stitched glass tapestries as a set?" So Claire and I, Claire's a writer, we wrote together a play called The Knitting Pilgrim for me to perform alongside the tapestries. Something that would allow me to explore the themes of the exhibit with an audience, interfaith empathy, and all those things. The show turned out to be a big hit, which completely flabbergasted me. And yes, the tour was shut down by COVID, but then so were a lot of things. So I very much appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today and to tell you about my journey. It reminds me that so many of us are invested in having these conversations. And I'm hopeful that one day soon, we'll all be able to get together and talk again in person and in peace. Thank you, and God bless.
Excuse me. Our next hymn is hymn number 577 from Voices United. I've got peace like a river.
I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul.
Jalal ad-Din Muhammad Rumi, also known more popularly as Rumi, was a 13th century Persian scholar, theologian, and Sufi mystic, originally from Iran. Rumi has had international and interfaith influence over the past 7 centuries. His poems have been widely translated into many of the world's languages and transposed into various formats. The Guest House is one of his most well-known poems. The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Our next hymn is from Voices United, number 236. Now thank we all our God.
We conclude our service of worship with the singing of the Hebrew benediction.
No.